this is fascinating when you've got the United States saying we're going to get rid of our IRS. Then you've got other nations going, well, we're going to now allow women who've had children not to pay tax anymore. This is going to have an effect on other nations and other countries, because people will see this and go, well, hang on a second. Why is it that we have to pay tax and I've brought up 4 kids? You know, why is it that I have to pay tax and the United States is not doing it? They're covering that with tariffs or working towards that. It's totally shaking up the entire economic system, Erin.
Before we start, we need to tell you up front we are not a licensed financial planning, accounting or law firm. This is simply an education program which will give you factual information. We do not give any general or specific advice around finance, business, investing, options trading, or anything else. That is not what this presentation does. Please see a licensed financial planner when it comes to any investment advice you need.
Welcome to The Greater Wealth here on Edge Radio Australia. We are live, unless, of course, you're listening to the replay. The gentleman next to me is, well, hang on, I haven't seen you for so long. Well, I may have forgotten. Strangers. Not in the dark web, actually. That would be a little bit sus. It is great to see you. Of course, Derek Whittaker, the man, the myth, the legend behind Blu Sky Factory. Great to have you here, mate.
It's always great to be here, Aaron.
Absolute pleasure. Now, we're doing the old two-shot today. We're on the couch together. And we've got a lot to talk about today. Really have. Because a little bit's been going on in the world of finance versus politics, hasn't it?
One or two things, yeah.
You're going to challenge me today. Challenge me on the IT side of things. So anything could happen. We're going to try to do some things that I am clearly not qualified for, but we're going to give it a go. So would you like to get into the show and give us a bit of a rundown of where we're going today?
What we're doing today is we're having a look at the relationship between Australia and the United States. This is, of course, the news broke out that Australia is not going to be exempt from tariffs from the United States.
I saw that coming.
Such a decision by the Trump administration is entirely unjustified. This is against the spirit of our two nations' enduring friendship and fundamentally at odds with the benefits that our economic partnership has delivered over more than 70 years. Australia has no tariffs on goods from the United States, and of course we have a free trade agreement with the United States. Our government will continue to put forward a very strong case for an exemption, noting that the last time this occurred, it took months for that exemption to be granted.
Actually, probably, I'm going to defend Anthony Albanese here for a moment. If there's an expert on slowing an economy, he's the man. As far as when it comes to, honestly, the damage that the Labor government have done to the Australian economy over the last few years has just been ridiculous. We can talk about the social stuff, the social policies and the damage that's done. But the financial, my word, I'm telling you right now, in Perth, and I can't speak for every place in Perth, but I can speak for this. Some of the rentals, right, in Perth have literally doubled in 4 years. How do people live? How's it sustainable?
Let's talk about that issue for a moment. Why have rents gone up? Well, they let in, what was it, 1.5 million migrants over a 2-year period without proper housing infrastructure.
Correct.
What's interesting about that is why would they do that?
Well, I'm a little bit of a theory on this, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who thinks this, but I tell you right now, we've seen some experiment. We know that, of course, Western Australia and Australia is very much an experiment, as Mark McGowan told us a couple of years ago on the pulpit. Look, Canada, the UK and Australia have all had this massive thing going on. It's almost like something big pictures going on. It's almost like you're trying to crash 3 of the primary sort of economies.
I found it fascinating that on Australia Day that the federal government decided to fast track all these new immigrant applications to be Australian citizens because local council was taking too long, right? And I thought to myself, that's really interesting. Then I also noticed something too in my local district for campaigning in the West Australian election and giving big grants to migrant areas, religions.
Oh, yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And I thought, okay, you're giving that much money away to these various religions. How much are you giving to the Christian church in your local area?
Why would you possibly promote Christianity? I mean, it's not like Australia's built on it.
So it's fascinating. I thought to myself, I see a pattern. I'm going, all right, was it a case of bringing in new migrants, sweetening the deal and get them in voting status? And then And look, I'm not blaming new migrants who come to this country. If the door's open, why wouldn't you come in?
Exactly
right?
Yep.
I have no issue with that as well. But they're not coming in with an understanding of the political history of the various parties that have been playing out over the last 5 years.
In fairness, though, Derek, okay, most Australians don't have any idea who the hell they're voting for. Like, most Australians these days very much think that that they still believe that the Labor Party is a working man or working woman's party, which is ridiculous. They are socialists. They are absolutely the most damaging parties. When you talk about, and I see the people increasing the vote for the Greens. The Greens have not, in my opinion, okay, and as somebody who sort of has watched this for a very long time closely, in my opinion, the Greens don't seem to care about the environment anymore.
No.
They seem to care about control, right? It seems to be, again, a socialist push. And to me, it's like the Labor Party said, hey, we went and talked to an advertising company, all right, a marketing company, said, hey, how can we market the Labor Party because we're failing a bit? Oh, I know, we'll invent something called the Greens. That's what it seems to me. Like, honestly, it's so far removed from what the principles of the party, what they actually do, okay, and their words. And this is the big thing I'll always say. I will judge someone on their actions far more than their words, and that's obviously why I'm a supporter of Donald Trump, because sometimes I don't like his words too much, but I'll tell you right now, I see his actions and I see the good things. And obviously,
well, he's delivering on the promises he made.
100%.
I mean, that's the big issue.
And we get angry with politicians because they don't do as they actually promise, right?
What do you want?
What do you want? So we're going to obviously talk about tariffs. We're going to talk about what Albanese's just said.
I'd like to talk a little bit more about that, because I think the response is socialistic in its way. It's kind of like, hey, we believe in this myth of fair go, a fair go for all Australians, et cetera, et cetera. And I think what you've got to realise is, what has America been giving all this time, right? Whoa. You go back to the Second World War, and that's where the relationship between the two nations really formed.
Yeah, okay.
When Australia woke up and realised we can't rely on the Brits to defend us in wartime anymore.
No.
Okay, no. Australians had been loyal. They'd fought World War One, the war to end all wars, and then after World War Two, it was kind of like Britain was so busy defending its own battles of Britain, literally on its own shores, and then re-establishing Europe with security in their minds, that they weren't able to help with Darwin being bombed, the threat through the Asian nations and all that sort of stuff. And of course, then you had the United States in the Pacific.
Yeah.
And of course, they had a big military base in the Philippines at that time.
That's right. Much closer.
Exactly. And that's where the relationship internationally really formed between the United States and Australia. Okay. And so if you look at this relationship, you're going, it's like the bloke who's been buying the drinks all the time at the pub.
Okay,
right?
explain this to me.
So you know, when that moment where some people just hang back on the bill?
Oh, yeah.
You know, and they're not paying their fair share.
Yes.
Right? I kind of think to yourself, how long has America been paying the bill, paying the rounds of drinks, in terms of being the world policeman? This is the position that they've been in.
You've absolutely nailed it. You really have. And I mean, I understand where Trump's coming from in this one, big time. I mean, America has been carrying the lion's share of all of this, I was going to say investment, but it's not an investment. It's not an investment. They're throwing money, good money after bad, and absolutely raping the economy in the US to prop up, you know, Europe, Middle East, whatever. And trust me, I mean, let's face it, the Middle East isn't short of money. Yeah. Okay, the UK should not be short of money. The infrastructure, the history's there.
The old money.
The old money. Yeah. It's as simple as that. So
look, I think what's interesting too is Albanese's response here. It's a bureaucrat's response. It's a politician's response. It's about diplomacy. It's not a businessman's response. And to talk to Trump, you've got to talk on business terms.
Yeah, you do.
And I think that's what's really missing in that response. I would have preferred to see a response like this. And it's terrible timing for Albanese because he's coming up for an election, right? And he's feeling the pinch on this, because if he doesn't play this right, he's going to look very weak compared to Trump.
He already looks very, very weak.
And what I would have preferred him to say is something like this: you know what? That's fine. The United States has got to forge its own way and do what it is. We still maintain friendship and a great historical relationship we have with this nation.
Yep.
But there are other nations for us to explore deals with. we'll be doing that as well, and we'll find a way through it because we're Australians and we're resilient. Now, that would have had more respect, I think, from the US government if he'd had a response like that than playing the "this isn't fair" line.
Oh, well, you know what? We had a little bit of joke before we went on air. You were singing to me, which is terrifying, absolutely terrifying on so many levels.
I was reciting all these pop songs that just come out to my head.
Here's the problem, two old radio fellas, right? So you started singing "What About Me" by Moving Pictures. I hope it was Moving Pictures. I hope it wasn't the Shannon Knoll
Shannon Knoll version.
Yeah.
Pick your own version.
That's right. We'll go with Moving Pictures. But it's true, that whole whingy thing.
It's a socialist song.
It is a socialist song. And you've ruined the song for me, but
it's great Australian socialism. That's what it is.
Boom. But I mean, honestly, the weakness of it. And this is our leader. And I hate to use the word leader when I talk about Albanese, because he's not. Like, honestly, yeah. I find him, like, if I met, there's particular leaders in the world you'd meet and you'd feel a level of intimidation, right? Okay? My respect for our Australian leader here in Albanese is I almost want to walk up and paint a mustache on him with a pen. Like, he's just...
Well...
He's just a joke.
I think Australians politicians have to realise the world is changing and changing very quickly. The old way of doing things is going, all right? Yep. This is what Albanese, recognised. He said that he noted that Australia's still in aluminium exports, because that's what's being targeted, and that the US made up only 0.2%, so 0.2% of the total value of Australia's exports, while flagging there would be further support for the industry in the coming federal, through this government's Buy Australia campaign. Now, I think Buy Australian campaign, fantastic. I think we should be supporting local producers. Absolutely. That's
it's difficult, though.
Exactly what America is doing, is saying we want to produce on our own shores. If you actually look, I've been doing some digging around, and our exports, Australia's exports to the United States is $14.73 billion during 2024. Okay. And our biggest, guess what we export the most?
Oh, jeez, I don't know.
Cattle. Cattle meat, beef.
Really?
That's our biggest export. Okay. That's a $4.03 billion industry, and edible meat. Meat and edible meat, I feel.
Well, I hope all meat's edible, but all right.
We do half of that kind of exporting with pearls, precious stones, metals and coins. So our gold, our opals, that sort of stuff, diamonds.
Makes sense.
That's $2.02 billion worth. Then there's an interesting one I wasn't expecting. The third top is pharmaceutical products.
I see that on the list. I'm blown away.
$1.35 billion. Okay. And then the fourth, optical, photo, technical, medical apparatus. So there you go, kind of in the medical industry again, $1.2 billion worth.
Well, hang on. Well, if that's tools, maybe we should just export Albanese.
Aaron, behave.
I don't know, because, I'm embarrassed for my country right now. Like, I've loved Australia all my life, okay? I've been a patriot, okay? And for the last few years, I'm really struggling with that. I'm watching the destruction of this country I love so much.
Well, you're going to love this one. You're going to love this one. Look at number 5. Machinery, nuclear reactors.
Hang on.
Boilers, $1.16 billion. We export nuclear reactors to the United States.
Did not know that. Okay.
Now, look at the Greens' influence here.
Oh.
This is my point. Labor doing deals with the Greens, and yet we kill our own sheep farmer export industry because it's cruel to the animals. I just go... Things that make you go, you know, because our industry in terms of meat exports is massive to the US. The farmers in our own country are hurting because of this ideology. You know, it's okay for the cows, but it's not for the sheep, right? And yet we're exporting nuclear reactors, which is
hang on. But apparently, if we start a nuclear reactor here in Australia or several, it's apparently going to take 30, 40 years.
We have the technology.
I know we've got technology. And hang on, here's the thing. Whenever you look at any of the advertising, right, I am not, by the way, promoting Liberal Party here, okay? I'm saying, because sadly we've got two main parties. But if you ever look at the advertising, okay, and look at the fact how Kamala it is, coming from the Australian Labor Party. It is scare, negativity. It's not, hey, we're wonderful custodians of the country. We're not wonderful statesmen. We're not trying to build something here. We're not trying to rebuild the country. We're not making Australia great again. You know, it's oh no, nuclear, evil, dirty, dangerous, right? It's going to take forever. Oh, it's all of that. Hang on, right? if you want to talk about the environment, okay, you stop talking about wind turbines because they're rubbish. We all know they're rubbish. We all know it's a money laundering scam. You stop listening to the Greens because most of them, I mean, honestly, I've had conversations with these people and it just hurts. It hurts. It does, Derek.
It's very much emotional, a lot of their arguments, isn't it, based on facts.
No, they don't use a lot of facts, no.
And that's what's interesting. I think I kind of look at this and I go, well, what did you expect? I mean, look at what happened to Canada, right? If anyone's tied, that's like an Australia-New Zealand type relationship,
100%.
the US and Canada. It's similar. There's that tie there. If they treated Canada like that, I don't know why Australian politicians thought they would be exempt from tariffs. This is an economic policy that presents America first. Now, I also think it's fascinating that let's have a look at what he says regarding the Canadian situation.
Okay.
Because I want to explore this a little bit further in that if Australia was exempt, what does it say as the rest of the world? Have a look at this.
I'm not. Look, we've been ripped off for years, and we're not going to be ripped off anymore. No, I'm not going to bend at all. Aluminum or steel or cars. We're not going to bend. We've been ripped off as a country for many, many years. We've been subjected to costs that we shouldn't be subjected to. In the case of Canada, we're spending $200 billion a year to subsidize Canada. I love Canada. I love the people of Canada. I have many friends in Canada. The great one, Wayne Gretzky, the great. Hey, how good is Wayne Gretzky? He's the great one. But we have, I know many people from Canada that are good friends of mine. But, you know, the United States can't subsidize a country for $200 billion a year. We don't need their cars. We don't need their energy. We don't need their lumber. We don't need anything that they give. We do it because we want to be helpful. But it comes a point when you just can't do that. You have to run your own country. And to be honest with you, Canada only works as a state. It doesn't. We don't need anything they have. As a state, it would be one of the great states anyway. This would be the most incredible country visually. If you look at a map, they drew an artificial line right through it between Canada and the U.S. Just a straight artificial line. Somebody did it a long time ago, many, many decades ago, and makes no sense. It's so perfect as a great and cherished state. Keeping "O Canada," the national anthem. I love it. I think it's great. Keep it. But it'll be for the state, one of our greatest states. Maybe our greatest state. But why should we subsidize another country for $200 billion? It costs us $200 billion a year. And again, we don't need their lumber. We don't need their energy. We have more than they do. We don't need anything. We don't need their cars. I'd much rather make the cars here. And there's not a thing that we need. Now, there'll be a little disruption, but it won't be very long. But they need us. We really don't need them. And we have to do this. I'm sorry. We have to do this, yes.
So one of the hardest things to do in business is sometimes business with mates, right?
Ain't that the truth?
You know what I'm saying? Because you sometimes you feel guilty for what you might be charging, or they're expecting a discount. It's never quite always on the same fair terms. And
we're Australian, mates' rates.
Exactly, the mates' rates sort of thing. And it's like, how long do you continue that relationship? You know, we have a situation like we're renting at the moment from friends.
Sure.
And they said recently, they said to me, Derek, I'm really sorry, but we've got to raise the rent. I said, it's fine. Yep. Business is business. And I think this is what I'm hearing from Trump here saying, look, this is costing us $200 billion a year. We can't keep paying this. Yeah. Let's face it, guys, America is broke. It's in trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. I'm sure they'd love to help the world out, but it's costing them, and nobody else is coming to will foot the bill. Canada hasn't, it says to me that Canada is over-reliant on US buying stuff from them that they really don't need, and it's time to innovate. And Canada can do very well, for what it produces. Other nations out there that would buy their stuff. But it's that kind of awkwardness of the relationship versus business.
Everything you said, I actually thoroughly agree with. The only thing I would say is, okay, I don't know, and it's Trump, so you know that there's...
Sure.
The game of chess is about 5-6 moves ahead of where I am, right?
Yeah.
I don't understand the push when it comes to becoming a state. I don't know if it is just rhetoric to emotionally fire up the Canadians. I think it might be.
Yeah, look, that one's arguable, absolutely. I think what is interesting is Trudeau has just sat down and Canada have a new Prime Minister.
Yeah, she's kind of like, it's really Trudeau 2.0.
He has been he's been the head of the Bank of England.
Yeah. Okay.
He's been the head of the Canadian Bank as well.
Right.
And so it's got WEF written all over it again, like Justin Trudeau was. What I think will happen, though, is that party is going to lose power to the opposition, because I think they're going more conservative. They're going, we love Trump. And I think Canadians are starting to wake up and go, is this really serving us? And, you know, this kind of left-wing push, the world is just questioning all of that stuff.
Totally agree. Actually, funny enough, when the new Prime Minister over there started one of his speeches on watching him, I didn't know that about his history, but I actually thought he was quite a banker. Yeah. Boom. But it's true. Like, I couldn't believe. I thought to myself, what have you done, Canada? Like this is the replacement. I cannot wait for that election and that wonderful, very, very great country. I'm very lucky. I've known a few Canadians in my time. Even got some rallies over there.
Yeah.
Great people, right? And they need proper leadership. And I think a change to a conservative leadership will change that dramatically. And I think it'll improve the relationship between the US. And I can never pronounce his name, the gentleman on the conservative side who will become Prime Minister. I'm fairly confident on that one. I think that he said that his speeches have been those of a statesman, have been someone who genuinely loves Canada. And I think that also the way he handled himself, he didn't do a big sookie carry on like Albanese did, right? About the tariffs. He said about the fact that how they would tackle them and handle it in a very diplomatic yet honest way. And it showed real class. So, you know, I think that's the way you've got to deal with Trump to be extent.
I think if you do the sookie kind of, he's not. You're going to lose respect. Absolutely going to lose respect in front of Trump, because he is a strong character. He's the art of the deal is his kind of his book, his narrative, and he likes people who have good win-win, tough negotiations. He likes that. He loves the challenge of that.
Look, he's a quintessential alpha male, right? Okay, and guess what? That's not toxic. That's a fantastic thing. Masculinity is a wonderful thing, and we need to promote more of it, not less of it. And you know, you might not like everything he says, but again, look at his actions. America is going to go through some tough times. It might even have a bit of a feel of the 70s about it for a little bit, you know, America in the 70s for a little bit. But once the manufacturing comes back to the US, once they start to get more and more people, you know, off fentanyl and off to work,
well, Trump's doing multiple things here. I mean, the price of oil, Brent oil, has gone down significantly.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that's his big focus, because look at what he's actually targeting with Australia. It's aluminium and steel. Okay, you need those products to make vehicles and cars and stuff like that. And he's wanted to get the price of oil down, because he understands that transportation is absolute key in terms of inflation. If oil goes up, prices of goods go up, because you've got the transportation costs. So
it's all right. We can fix that. All electric cars, mate. And now, you know what? We'll have solar-powered things that'll charge them at night. It'll work really well.
That's the irony. He's got Tesla there working alongside with Doge, and he's just bought a Tesla just to smooth the relationship with him.
I know.
And all that's just a friendship thing, you know, doing things for mates. But that's the interesting thing. He knows that drill oil baby is the way to go. In terms of that kind of environmental type of approach. It's just not going to work. It's just...
It's not. And look, okay, this is the thing too. When it comes to oil, stop treating oil and carbon, all right? Two things that people just treat as the great evils. Guess what you're made of? Boom, you're made of carbon, all right? That's okay. Carbon is, you know, it's just one of these things that environmentalists or actually lobbyists have gotten hold of, and they've turned it into something that's bad. And oil, everything I'm touching right now, okay, has got oil in it. This mouse that I'm using to operate the computer, guess what? Made of plastic. Which, guess what? Made of oil, right? This, it's everywhere. It's all around me, okay? We live in a society where we are completely dependent on it. Now, they keep making it sound like it's all about movement and energy, but to tell you right now, it's also about literally the manufacturing process and what we have.
We've got to come up with other alternatives to plastic.
Right.
I mean, the problem with plastic is its breakdown. It never breaks down. It just hangs around, and it has its own issues too in terms of us breathing in plastics. It's a big concern as far as our health is concerned. I'm sure there are products there that can replace plastic, but that's going to take a process in and of itself. Although Trump has put an executive order in to bring plastic straws back, which I think is one of his most important executive orders. And nobody likes paper paper straws. He's tired of drinking out of a paper straw.
We're all tired of it. We've had enough, okay? Honestly, you know, it's so true. These little basic things of life. We are not a third world country. America is not a third world country, right? We have the right to a decent straw. Okay, mate. Now,
so I think the big question for Australia is if they had gone for tit for tat as far as this is concerned, right? So you're going to do that, fine. We're going to put tariffs on your products. I wonder what the response would be. I think they might be looking at the response that Trump has had to the European Union on their counter tariffs. If we have a look at the next slide here, this is really interesting in terms of US response. So the European Union, one of the most hostile and abusive taxing and tariffing authorities, and well, this is Trump putting out on his Truth Social, taxing authorities in the world, which was formed for the sole purpose of taking advantage of the United States. He's talking about the EU there. Has put just a nasty 50% tariff on whiskey. If this tariff is not removed immediately, the US will shortly place a 200% tariff on all wines, champagnes and alcoholic products coming out of France and other EU represented countries. This will be great for the wine and champagne businesses in the United States. So, you know, no more Sauvignon Blanc.
Exactly.
So this is how his response is like, fine, you're going to do that to us, we'll up the levy even more.
And this is something too that's worth a mention. Okay, people go, oh, it's bullying. No, it's bloody negotiation. Okay, you have to negotiate with people, even terrorists, right? Like honestly, this is, and the EU has been using. The EU has been a mess for a very long time, right? Okay, and there's obviously why Brexit happened, and it's been really a WEF kind of thing. Let's be frank, right? So the bullying's been happening for a very long time through diplomatic channels. We've had leaders who haven't had the guts to actually stand up for it.
Well, Trump prefers to deal with nation upon nation within Europe, as opposed to the Union of Nations, the European Union. So I think it's one of maybe a slap in the face for the Union itself and going, we're not really recognising your sovereignty. We're looking at the sovereignty of other nations. You're a body here because of the extreme numbers there of 200% tariff. What puts in question for me is where Australia sits. Does it want to go down that path? Is it too afraid to go, well, we'll put tariffs on you guys, tit for tat here, because you've done that for us? I think the main answer would be, look, it depends on what Australia really wants from the US in relation to what it needs to import, as opposed to you know, America obviously wants to be number one as far as US steel is concerned. And there is a company called US Steel, ironically. It wants its own production of that. I think it's maybe looking at Australia and going, look, you need to start moving towards this more self-sufficiency as well in relation to that.
We absolutely have to. Okay, I look back at my life, say 30 years ago, building race cars, okay, roll cages, right? Now, roll cages, guess what? I go down to BHP. All right, they had there. We could order what we wanted. We had that on the shelves. It was very, very good quality. All right. Now we talk about the exports of steel and aluminium. Quite frankly, where do you buy the steel and aluminium? Because everything I buy now, or I've been tried to buy, you know, after that period, is all made in China, and it is not the same quality.
There's one or two small local producers.
Yeah, but it's so minor, mate. It's so, and it's difficult to do, right? It's a challenge to buy Australian. So, like, you don't head down to BHP Blue Steel these days anymore to buy your roll cage material or any steel for construction. And you look at the, okay, I'm driving in today. I saw, you know, a house being built, and it's all now. They don't use timber on the roof now. They're using steel, which you have for a long time, which I don't personally agree with. But it's Chinese steel. Yeah. It's Chinese steel. We're Australia. We look at this. I don't know if you've noticed, we've got big holes in the ground where we get the stuff that builds this stuff, right? Like, why are we not value adding? Why are we just ripping off Australians with these mining royalties? Ripping them, we get ripped off on the gas, we get ripped off on so many things. Value add, that's what we need to do. And that's what Trump is doing. And that's why we need a leader who's got strength like him, not a wet blanket. If
you want to hear a different kind of response to a US that stances on its economic tariffs and why they're doing this, I think the Vice President sums it up fairly well.
What we're really after here, and you see so many people attacking the president's economic programs and attacking the progress that we've made over the past 7 weeks. You hear people saying, well, how dare Donald Trump impose tariffs on foreign countries that have been taking advantage of us for 40 years? And the answer is that unless you're willing to use American power to fight back against what those countries have been doing for a generation, you are never going to rebuild American manufacturing, and you're never going to support the American worker. President Trump is done with leaders who talk. We are an administration that is going to do things for the American people and for American workers.
They feel like they've been taken advantage of.
Yeah.
That's what I keep hearing from that leadership. And I think Australia's got to look at itself and go, what does it really want from the United States? And I think it's not something what they can import, but it's what the US can provide, and that is defence security. And I think that's what Australia's really after in the relationship. And I think that's what Australian politicians are probably trying to protect here, is that, you know, certainty in the Indian and Pacific Oceans.
Yeah. I don't agree. Disagree, rather. Okay, great to see Josh on there. I was going to say hello before. Good to see you, mate. Fantastic. Now, he's got a question or a comment more to the point. It is too expensive to make steel here. Labour and energy are both expensive in Australia. You're right, mate. You're absolutely right.
Well, this is what Trump's doing. He's going, right, we'll make it affordable by putting tariffs on imports.
Yep.
And that's what they do. So rather than just having a no-zero tariff arrangement with other countries, they're going, we are going to tariff it so that it isn't too expensive to produce anymore. That's how they're solving it.
That's how you fix it. Now, and of course, further to Josh's comment here, it is cheaper to ship iron ore to China and ship it back as substandard steel. And that's exactly what's taking place here. It's really, really sad to see. It's like our furniture as well, where, you know, Jarrah and Marry is being sent to China, turned into substandard, and it is substandard because, okay, there's different ways that they make more money out of it, okay? The veneers and all sorts of things. When it comes to the steel, they use different mixes of the steel. It's not the same quality. It's not the same product, okay? Things are made in such a disposable way these days. It's really, really quite a shame.
I think we've got to get back to understanding the world is changing. Yeah. And it's changing very rapidly and very quickly. And I think politicians have got the choice as to whether they embrace that or whether they try to fight that. And I think the smarter play is to embrace that. Have a look at what the United States is doing with their IRS. Absolutely caning it, wanting to get rid of it, educating the masses how they were better off without it under tariffs and this sort of thing. It's phenomenal what's going on. Meanwhile, if you get a tax bill in Australia, it's like we've all got to pay our fair share again, that fair share mentality, that mindset. And I think Australians have got to wake up, particularly politicians, and go, the world is not going to continue this way in the manner in which it has. The game is changing rapidly, and you either get embrace it or not. I mean, for example, the sovereign fund that the United States is setting up and buying cryptocurrencies. How many nations need to jump on board with that before the price gets even higher?
Of course.
You know, it's just like, hello, but a lot of them are going to be sitting there on the sidelines arguing about whether they should in the you know, upper and lower houses, whether they should or they shouldn't. Meanwhile, America's already doing it. And I think that's what they've got to realise. We've got to move quicker on this. Otherwise, you're going to be left out of the game.
Little advice here, okay? There's this man right here, Derek Whittaker, does these courses, Blu Sky Factory, get on board. If you want to actually learn, no, honestly, this is such an important thing. And why we don't educate people when it comes to money, the systems, and so forth in school, well, I do know, because they don't want you to know. If you want to know what they don't want us to know, get onto bluskyfactory.com.au, no E in that, just bluskyfactory.com.au, and get onto straight and narrow and actually understand this and create your future, quite frankly.
Appreciate that. One nation that is starting to embrace tax reform, you're going to love this, is Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary. Yeah. He's made a huge historic announcement. Okay, let's have a look at that. He's going to eliminate income tax until the age of 30 for women with one child.
Whoa.
Women with 2 or more children will be exempt for income tax for life.
Hang on. I've got issues. Okay. I got issues.
All right.
You got to be excited with no income tax. And okay,
don't take your Australian culture and apply it to Hungary. There's 2 different cultures here. This is the point. You can't, because divorce is a different thing there than it is here, okay?
All right, I'm hungry for answers. I'll watch the video and then I'll come back.
Európa, sőt az egész nyugati világ legnagyobb adócsökkentését. Ezzel új fejezetet nyitunk a magyar gazdaság történetében, kialakítjuk a világ első családközpontú gazdaságát. Az egygyermekes anyák 30 éves korukig, a 2 és több gyermekes édesanyák életük végéig nem fizetnek jövedelemadót. Ez minden mértéktartás mellett is világszenzáció. Ezzel a magyar családok jövőjét hosszú évtizedekre biztosítjuk.
Okay, beautiful dream. Beautiful dream. But is that going to encourage more single mothers? Okay, is that going to encourage the breakdown of the family, which is the greatest problem that all the Western world suffers through right now?
I don't think so, because if you look at the culture of Hungary, they're very pro-family and keeping them together.
Okay.
In very, very different approach.
All right. So why the single mothers? Why not have it so that families, right, will be families with one child, right, would be subject to a lower tax?
I think what it's trying to encourage is that rather than a state-based bring up your child in a childcare centre, mums and dads actually do it.
Yeah,
a parent actually brings the kids up. I think. Let's put divorce aside for a moment. Okay. Let's talk about the kids.
Yeah,
they're the ones who suffer the most in any separation or divorce. And I have witnessed children who go to a childcare centre in Australia at 6:30 in the morning, and then go to school, and then they come back to the childcare centre for the before and after school care, and then they don't get picked up till 6 o'clock that night.
Yeah.
Right now, that is not 5 days a week. That is not great, healthy family living. Now, I'm not making people feel guilty who are doing that. I understand there's certain situations where they feel that they've got to do that to provide for their families. I understand that. Sure. I think the biggest issue is that women have felt like if they don't, they miss out and they can't afford a home or something like that. This is saying, look, we recognise how long it takes to bring up one child, right? We also recognise how long it takes to bring up 2 or more children. That, in terms of a woman's working life, certainly gets a bit of a haircut. And I think it's like, right, well, the benefit we're going to do is you'll not pay income tax when you do return to the workforce, or if you have a side hustle, so to speak, you're not going to be paying income tax for that. Isn't it all about promoting families?
I would think so. I would hope so. But in Western society, no, it's not. Hungary, you're right, and I'm not all over the social sort of, I don't know, patterns, I guess, in Hungary.
Far more conservative than we are.
No doubt about it. And I've certainly, everything I've seen from their Prime Minister, over the last couple of years, I've been nothing but impressed about. And I've seen that honesty, integrity, understanding, wild concepts like, what is a woman? Okay, and actually knowing the answer.
They don't have time for that.
Yeah, they don't have time. That's also a great thing that I've noticed about countries that were formerly behind the Iron Curtain. There's a realism. Okay, they don't play these stupid Western games. They don't invent problems for themselves based on the fact, life's too good, I better create a problem.
And you've hit a huge point there. That's what a lot of the left have done. If there's not a problem, we'll create a problem and then come up with a solution for that problem.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's called manipulation. And I think they're very careful who they let in their borders in protecting the culture that they have there in Hungary. So this is fascinating when you've got the United States saying we're going to get rid of our IRS. Then you've got other nations going, well, we're going to now allow women who've had children not to pay tax anymore. This is going to have an effect on other nations and other countries, because people will see this and go, well, hang on a second, why is it that we have to pay tax and I've brought up 4 kids? Why is it that I have to pay tax and the United States is not doing it? They're covering that with tariffs or working towards that. It's totally shaking up the entire economic system, Aaron.
If I lived in Europe right now, okay, and I wanted, I've got kids, or want to raise my children, guess what? I'd be looking at Hungary. I'd be thinking, across the border and off to a better lifestyle. I can see that. I really can. And I think that you're right. I mean, a few people make some changes and there's a cultural shift, okay? There's that little pebble in the ocean. It's just, you're creating a wave and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And people, always say, I'm only one person, what can I do? You can change the world. It's a fact. You just have to create that ripple that will create that wave. And you might be right on that one. I've got my fears on that. But
Tell me your fears.
Well, my fears are it just promotes more single-parent households, which everybody, if you ever look at the statistics, okay, that if you want to destroy your children, that's the way to do it. Okay.
Well, okay, a single-parent mother isn't paying tax anyway, is she? Most of them.
Most of them.
Unless they have a part-time job.
Yep.
But they get subsidies, and if you off-balance what they're getting from the government in terms of welfare versus what they're paying in taxes, are they paying taxes? You'd have to look at the numbers. Each individual situation is different.
Of course it would be. Yeah.
And they're also getting the child support payments. So,
which I don't know what the situation is in Hungary about child support payments. No idea.
Yeah.
I just want to do anything that promotes family, because family is the fundamentally most important part of life, right? Full stop. and raising your children to be the best human beings they can be. That is, look, it's your job, right? It's absolutely your job.
At least have the conversation. How can we support families better again? I think we haven't done a very good job of that in Australia.
Oh, I think we've done a terrible job. I mean, a message just come in from Travis Carter. You might have heard of this fella. Good luck from the Armidale Courthouse.
Oh, there you go.
Well, there you go. Fantastic message there, mate. I don't know what that's about, but okay. And another one, a lot of people have kids to increase their family payments. That is so true. I have met women who have actually said that they've had... one specifically, literally became a baby factory because of the fact that, the financial benefit of it.
That's not why you have a child.
Oh my God, it's not why you have a child. And on top of that, and a big social problem that, I'll get, things thrown at me for this one, but women who have, all of these children to different fathers, so you're picking up the government payments and you're picking up child support 1, child support 2, child support 3, child support 4. Oh my God. What are you doing to those children?
Yeah, huge social issues.
Yep.
Huge social issues. It's kind of like, are we still in high school? That's kind of my response to that.
Say that again.
Are we still in high school?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Bingo. You know that, actually.
Grow up.
How about we grow up, we be adults about it. Look, society really needs to clean up its act. It's a big thing.
Because, again, the kids are the ones that are paying the price for this. And they go, oh, kids are resilient. I can tell you this, from being a pastor's kid, right, for all my life, one of the biggest things that my parents would hear in any counselling session, one of the opening lines from a child that had been through divorce as an adult is, well, everything was... My parents broke up at this point in my life.
Yep.
It's always... oh, no, kids are resilient. No, they're not. It affects them for life, guys.
Yes, it does.
And we have to accept that.
Well, that's why the family court want to make the customers of the future by destroying all families. All right, so I've got a couple of comments I do want to bring up. Cash babies are a major issue in the Northern Territory. I have heard that very same fact or comment. Question in here from Inferno Insomnia, which I believe would be an amazing Taz. Oh my God, Travis, you're right. My brother... when we were kids, we're friends with this one boy who was one of 10 with 4 different dads. It's so common. Now, okay, I can sit here and be, a bit of a hypocrite on that because, I've shared my love a little bit across, a couple of marriages, right? But I mean, I got married with absolute intention of having one woman in my life and raising a family with her and all that sort of thing. Unfortunately, society does not promote that. In fact, does everything possible to destroy that now.
And look, it's not just the legal system that's encouraged that, and the welfare system that's encouraged that. It's Hollywood that's destroyed that as well. It's been on many several fronts.
Absolutely. Another comment here from Taz. The mum clearly wasn't using... Sorry. The mum clearly wasn't using child support on the kids because they were always getting caught for shoplifting or asking for bread and milk. That's just horrible. And that's just... I mean, everything that's wrong. Whenever I see, again, I'm going to say something incredibly, I'll get rocks thrown at me. Okay, brace yourself, okay? But when I see a child, when I see a child who's eating nothing but noodles and fast food and crap like that, but then I look and see mum's nails are done and her hair's done and all kind of thing, it pisses me right off. Because as a father, okay, I'm telling you right now, I will sacrifice anything and everything for my children. Simple as that. And I don't... It really drives me nuts. Now, Travis has actually said that, yes, there we go. Taz, I'm always right. Well, nothing... Look, ego's not a dirty word. There, Travis, good to see you got that comment. But we've said all of these things. We're talking about economics and we're talking about politics. But this is a really great explanation and a great way of displaying the fact that this is how it changes your everyday life. Right? Politics counts and matters. The people that we choose, and we're obviously going to be going to the ballot in a couple of months here in Australia, as late as Albanese could possibly make it. Jeez, doesn't want to call that.
And I think that's probably one of the other reasons why they're not retaliating with the US, because if the US starts getting into nargy-bargy in terms of, hey, well, you're going to tariff us there, we'll tariff you more, it's not the look they want going into a federal election.
Right, you want to go very quiet, don't you? So
it's just fodder for the opposition to go,
Yep, exactly right.
But I think, excuse me, what is also not going in Australia's favour was the comments that were happening between the previous Prime Minister, Malcolm... sorry, what was his name? Turnbull. Sorry. And, of course, the whole Kevin Rudd situation as well. Trump's not a fan of these guys. and makes no bones about it, and saying, you know, the Australian people saw right through him as well. And I think his comments prior to these tariffs coming in may have, you know, kind of just got the wound in there a little bit. And
you know what? Okay, I don't blame Trump for his ego being affected on this one. If Mr. Sheen, you know, and Turnbull, you know, Turnbull was, look, I've said this on a social media post. Turnbull was probably one of the Labor Party's best prime ministers, because he wasn't. And do you know what's surprising? A lot of people don't get that. But anyway, just an appalling human being who, you know, just everything. I can't even think of a single positive thing to say about his time as PM. But, you know, you've got Mr. Sheen, you know, old Kevin 07, and the damage that he did. Oh, with those words that he said. Like, we've talked before about statesmen. Use some decorum. Have some class about you, right?
Well, if Trump wants to look him up, he just has to make a phone call to Elon, because they all sit on Twitter once upon a time.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
What did he actually say?
What did he actually say? So let's have a look at, okay, a couple of comments that come through. Okay, here we go. WA state election needs to be held again. Too many stuff-ups and open corruption. Thoroughly agree. I was told myself how to vote by the woman at the office there, and just there. I couldn't get over the fact she told me how to vote incorrectly. So if I had actually followed her way, I had to correct her and actually had to explain to her what the rules were. I went and voted at 3:30 in the afternoon. How many people during the day did she tell how to vote like that? Okay? Now, this election has to be held again. I'm not going to say that, you know, Liberals are going to win or anything like that. Look, Labor's going to win again. But I think it'll change the mix quite considerably, and I think it's important for democracy to do that again. So,
I find it fascinating that the proposed misinformation bill, which got defeated at the federal level, was one of the points that they wanted to censor was election integrity. I just find it really ironic. I'm going, of all that and the whole thing of the instability of banks, I thought of all the issues that you could be concerned about. I mean, you know, they talk about hate speech and all this sort of stuff, and it's for the safety of kids not getting bullied and blah, blah, blah. Why would you target those two things? I just find that fascinating. I go,
it is
things that make you go, there you go, I'm back to my singing too.
There you are, okay. We've got CNC Music Factory here for you. You covered just about every song, mate. Thank you for today. Look, I'm sure that we had other subjects to cover, but we never really probably got there.
I think we did well.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to hear. Look, great to see Travis being involved all the way from court. I'm not going to ask any questions, but nice work. Brilliant to have.
Plead the fifth.
Doesn't work in Australia, unfortunately. Yeah. Gee, wouldn't it be nice if we had a Bill of Rights and some sort of things like that? Anyway, never mind. Thank you very much for being part, of course, of the greater world here in Western Australia, here on Edge Radio Australia. A lot of Australians there. I am still proud of this country, and I think we can say that. We just need to get people involved who have actually got, as I say, the courage to actually stand by the convictions and make the changes. And I did say it before, I'm going to keep saying it. Everybody who says to me, because I'm hearing it too much, I'm just one person, I'm just one person. You are one person, and one person can make a difference. That is it. Thank you very much for being part of the greater world here on Edge Radio Australia.